Logan, everybody, I'm Roger Hoover. Glad to welcome you back to the Crimson Tide Sports Network. And it's Thursday. It's 2 p.m. Central. That means it's time for Crimson Drive here live on our Crimson Tide Sports Network Facebook and Twitter pages, and of course archived later on YouTube. But we're glad to have all of you with us for the next little bit as we talk Alabama athletics. And it continues to be a really busy week here at the championship school. Last night I had a really fun opportunity to host the Crimson Choice Awards, the 2021 Crimson Choice Awards, along with Kennedy Chase from Tide TV this week, as we were able to really honor the great student athletes from all across Alabama athletics. It was presented by the Student Athlete Advisory Committee, a great job put together by Jesse Gardner with their work, along with Roots Woodruff of Alabama Athletics, and all the student athletes that have made this just such a special year. And I want to invite all of you to check that out on the UA Athletics Facebook page. About a 30-minute program last night. Comments from Greg Byrne, comments from every Alabama coach on campus, as well as some comments from our athletes who won some of the awards last night, especially the Bryant Award. Winning the female Bryant Award was Kaylee Towle from softball. Winning the male athlete of the year, the Bryant Award, was Mac Jones from football. So some really great honors for both of them. And again, that was just a fun experience last night, getting to be part of that virtual event. Normally it's in person, everyone dresses up, gets to see each other, but last night it was virtual, but we still had a really good time with that, and I encourage all of you to check it out as we kind of took a look back last night at everything that this group of student athletes has accomplished throughout the year here at the championship school. And as we still have some sporting events left to go, we're reminded there's still so much out there for University of Alabama athletics, starting with the spring sports that are still in competition. And as we start to take a look at the headlines, we'll begin with a look at what's coming up here on Crimson Drive. Well, speaking of baseball, how about Brad Bohannon, the head coach of the Crimson Tide baseball team, led his group to a sweep the past weekend over the Missouri Tigers. Now a great opportunity this weekend for Alabama baseball, going on the road to Nashville to take on the number 2 Vanderbilt Commodores from a Friday through Sunday series on West End. So we're really looking forward to that matchup between Alabama and Vanderbilt, and our first conversation will be with the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Brad Bohannon. After that, we will be joined by a longtime women's basketball, not only player, but assistant coach and head coach, Joanne McCallie, who joined us for Mental Health Awareness Month during this month of May. She has a new book out that we're going to hear all about that is endorsed by head coach Nick Saban, so we'll be hearing from Coach McCallie in a little bit, as well as the men's golf coach for the University of Alabama, Jay Sewell. We had a very extended interview with him last week talking about the Crimson Tide's run at the SEC Championships, falling in the semifinals to Vanderbilt. But earlier this week, we got the really good news that Alabama is headed back to the NCAA tournament as we expected, and the Crimson Tide will first play in the Stillwater, Oklahoma Regional coming up May 17th through the 19th. So we'll hear briefly from Coach Sewell just about his reaction to the news that Alabama is going back to the big dance in men's golf. Some other headlines. Let's start with the softball team. Last weekend, they were able to sweep the Georgia Bulldogs in Athens, the final road series of the year for Coach Murphy's group, so great success there. And now, this weekend, they are at home, ready to welcome in the Ole Miss Rebels in what will be a Thursday through Saturday series at Rhodes Stadium. So we cannot wait for Alabama softball for the last time in Tuscaloosa for true home games, because next week is the SEC tournament that Alabama is hosting, and then after that we expect Alabama will be one of the teams that will be selected to host regionals and then hopefully super regionals following that, as the Crimson Tide continue on their journey trying to make it back to the Women's College World Series, where they did advance to back in 2019. Other good news, Savannah Woodard continues playing at a high level for Alabama. She's been named the SEC Newcomer of the Weekend. So many preparations already being made for what is coming up next week, the SEC softball tournament in Tuscaloosa, again, May 11th through the 15th. Hope to be joined by Coach Murphy possibly next week, possibly our softball broadcasters, Tom Canterbury, Gray Robertson, to kind of preview all the softball action that's coming up at the Rhodes House. But if you're an Alabama softball fan, that's the good news. You know where to head to, and that is the Rhodes House here on campus at the University of Alabama. Baseball, like I mentioned, a great sweep of Mizzou and Tuscaloosa, a Missouri team that had been struggling over the last few weeks, but it was still a very competitive group, and a group that got in front early against the Crimson Tide throughout all the games this weekend. But Alabama found a way to come back in those games and get some great victories. Tyler Ross had a tough go of it on Friday night. The bullpen picked him up after he's been picking up the bullpen all season long. Dylan Smith was so strong for the Crimson Tide, going 8 innings, striking out 11 batters on Saturday in a game game that William Hamiter homered. Saw homers the day before by Zane Denton, Peyton Wilson. Sam Prater continues hitting at a high clip. Drew Williamson had a great week at the plate. And really it all came together on Sunday. Alabama trailing 2-0 most of the ball game. Pitching depth really thin. Had to find a way to win. They certainly did to get that sweep of the Missouri Tigers. It was also notable that the next week's game against UAB was canceled. So Alabama is done in non-conference play. They were scheduled to play earlier this week against the Samford Bulldogs in Hoover, Alabama at the Hoover Met. Last week, that game was canceled. Now this week, the game for Tuesday, May 11th against the UAB Blazers has been canceled, but we did see Alabama earn a win against UAB last week in downtown Birmingham. And as I mentioned, we'll be talking about some of these issues and more with Coach Bohannon coming up in just a few moments. Another sport with postseason on their mind, the Alabama golf team, both the women's and men's team, continue playing at a high level. The women's team will be getting it ready for action next week in the NCAA Baton Rouge Regional, so congratulations to Coach Potter and the Crimson Tide on that honor. We wish them the best of luck coming up next week. And then in 2 weeks, the men's team, led by Jay Sewell, going to the NCAA Stillwater Regional. That'll be taking place May 17th through the 19th. And coming up, we'll hear some comments from Coach Sewell as he got the news about Alabama being selected and where they'll be heading, Stillwater, Oklahoma, for the NCAA Regional. But first up on Crimson Drive, we have a conversation with the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Brad Bohannon. We've been airing some of his press conferences, hearing comments from a lot of Alabama players recently, but we wanted to have a one-on-one with Coach Bo about this baseball team that, again, has been seeing the ups and downs of SEC play. Even the most elite teams like Alabama will face this weekend, Vanderbilt, they've had their ups and downs. Everybody goes through it playing SEC baseball, but Coach Bohannon continues to like what he's seen from the Crimson Tide, and we think you'll enjoy this conversation with the head coach of the Alabama baseball team, Brad Bohannon. Talking baseball with the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Brad Bohannon. And Coach, it's always great to come off a sweep. What can you tell us about the weekend that was for Alabama baseball against Mizzou?
Yeah, sweeps are hard to get in the Southeastern Conference, and it was big. We needed it. We went into the weekend with an 8-10 SEC record, and any coach will tell you that you're just trying to get to 15, anything over past that is gravy. So it was nice to get the sweep and to get to 11-10 in league play. And again, it's hard to sweep anybody. I thought we played pretty well when you look at the 3 days, and certainly there were some periods of time we weren't as sharp or made a few mistakes, but really proud of our kids for finding a way to win 3 games.
Yeah, and this group has been resilient all season long, and that was really challenged from the very first inning going up against Missouri on Friday. Fall down 4-0 with Tyler Ross on the mound. What can you tell us about the response you guys had right away at the plate?
Well, unfortunately, we have too much experience playing from behind, and I've been joking with the kids. I'm like, y'all know it's okay to score first, right? I'm not going to be mad at you if we score first, but it does say a lot about our kids, and our theme the whole year, and really as long as I've been coaching, is I try to coach the kids hard in the fall and teach them how we want them to play. And in the spring, I just say, go play. There are times you have to play situational baseball, but don't play the scoreboard. Just go play 9 innings and win pitches. And this group is really, really good at that. They're not perfect, but they're really good at it. And that first inning was a great example. Rossi punches out the first 2 guys, gives up a cap job and a double and some really soft contact, and found some holes and just really bad luck. And our guys come in and they score 2, and that really speaks to the culture of our program and the strong intangibles of the kids that are playing.
Yeah, home runs in that inning by Peyton Wilson, another leadoff home run for him, his 5th of the year. Zane Denton gets a homer, and then even after Mizzou grows the lead a little bit, there's Sam Prater right there once again. You got to love the consistency they're having. And then we ultimately saw a great weekend at the plate from Drew Williamson as well.
Yeah, it's been huge for our team, for Sam and Drew to start performing to the level that we know that they can. And we've always believed in them. We had high expectations for those 2 guys coming into the year. And, for whatever reason, they both kind of scuffled a little bit, the first several weeks. But the way that Sam and Drew are playing right now is how I expect that they'll play the rest of the year, and kind of what we were looking to get from them. So that's been huge, because guys like Zane Denton and William Hamiter and Peyton Wilson have been pretty consistent for us. And now, instead of really having 2 or 3 guys you can count on, we got 5 or 6, and we're getting some more production out of the bottom with Caden Rose and Jim Jarvis and whoever's been playing left field. So offense has really grown, and really proud of all those guys.
And then even sticking with that Friday night game for just a moment, Tyler Ross didn't have the kind of start he wanted to have, but what does it say about him that he was able to keep going in that start when you needed him to bridge the gap to the bullpen with such thin pitching depth that Alabama has at the moment?
Yeah, Rossi's a real competitor. I can't say enough about his makeup and his intangibles, and he's a warrior out there. And all these young pitchers, they want to be starting pitchers and they want to be the Friday night guy. Well, hey man, we can't go get you in the second or third inning, especially as banged up as we are. And I thought Rossi had some really bad luck in the first, and then after that he probably wasn't as sharp as he has been, which is no knock on him. He's been pretty dang good, the last few weeks, and not one time was he looking in the dugout wanting us to take him out. He knew that we needed him, and he grinded, and he got us to the middle of the game, and then gave our bullpen a chance to pick him up. And that's what I told the kids after the game. I'm like, Rossi has carried us a lot of Fridays this year, and I was really proud of the offense and the bullpen for picking him up, and that's team baseball right there.
And then the next day on Saturday, it was Dylan Smith going 8 innings, getting a career-high 11 strikeouts, getting his first win of the year, and really looking the best he's looked all season.
Yeah, Dylan was outstanding on Saturday, and it's hard to strike out more than 10 guys and not walk anyone. Usually those numbers kind of go hand in hand a little bit, but he was able to pitch into the 8th inning because he didn't walk anyone, and we played pretty good defense behind him. So Dylan's had a great season. I wish individually that, he had some better numbers to show just how well that he has pitched for us, but he's had an amazing season, and really expecting a strong finish from him.
And sticking with pitching for a moment, what can you tell us about the plan going into Sunday? Connor Shamlin got the start, and again, just whoever you seem to throw in there, some good results on the mound for the Crimson Tide throughout that Sunday ball game.
Yes, so we pitched 5 guys on Sunday and was just really proud of all of them. And Connor is a guy that's thrown a lot of good innings here in his career, and he's a little dinged up right now and just in battling for us. And then again, the bullpen, I mean, the next 4 guys put up 7 zeros, which is just outstanding. And as well as Tyler Ross and Dylan Smith have been on the front end, and Chase Lee and Landon Green have been on the back end. Will Freeman's been every bit as valuable as those 4 guys pitching in the middle of the game for us. And he's kind of an unsung hero. And he pitched 5 innings of shutout baseball this weekend and pitched in 2 of the 3 games. So just kind of wanted to recognize him as well.
And on Sunday, Alabama had been shut out at the plate in 6 innings before us finally breaking through in the 7th inning. But had you seen some good things in some of the at-bats leading up to that led you to believe something big was coming for this Crimson Tide offense late?
Honestly, no. I was frustrated with them. I was frustrated with some of our at-bats early. And, I called them together in the middle of the game. And I'm like, hey, guys, show me some fight. Come on, show me some more fight. And don't wait till the 8th or the 9th until you do that. And I can't remember if it was the 6th or 7th inning, but we lined out 3 times. So there wasn't any panic, but I don't think we quite had the heightened sense of intent and focus, maybe those first few innings that we had at other points in the weekend. But, to our guys' credit, we found a way to win and executed some things late that put us in a position to win the game.
Well, also on Sunday, a very special moment before the game, we were able to recognize Troy for all the service she's given Alabama baseball over the years. What did that mean to you?
Yeah, that was awesome. Miss TL had retired several months ago, and we hadn't been able to honor her the appropriate manner just because of all the COVID restrictions and all that, and finally got to a point where we felt like we could do something that she was worthy of what she had done for our program. So, it's just unheard of anymore to work 23 years anywhere, and just really appreciate everything that she did for me personally and for the program. And, we still stay in close contact, and, she's still right down the street, but we miss her, and was really happy that we were able to honor her this weekend.
Yeah, you guys were able to honor her as well. Earlier this season, you got to honor the 2020 senior class that didn't really get to have a senior day. So I'm sure moments like that have been great to have this season. And Mississippi State's coming up, so we know senior day is right around the corner for a lot of these guys that we hope have a lot more baseball to play in a Crimson Tide jersey.
Yeah, there's so many people that go into, an organization like an SEC baseball program. And I think as a head coach, I it when things go well, and maybe too much blame when things don't. But there's so many people like Ms. Troy Lane administratively, or just our players. At the end of the day, I'm not throwing the baseball, I'm not swinging the bat. At the end of the day, it's the kids that are putting in the work, and they're making the pitches and getting the hits. So they're the ones that deserve all the credit. And to all of our former players and our current players. Probably don't take the time to tell them how much I appreciate them, but I do. And that's why we really wanted to honor last year's senior group, because they had been such a big part of getting us over the hump, and we're still not where we want to be, but, internally, that we're over the hump, with the culture of our program and the young talent that we have. And I thought it was important to them, and just for me personally, I wanted to recognize those guys.
That confidence allows you guys to go on the road to Nashville coming up this weekend to take on a Vanderbilt team that at times has been all over the top 5 this season, at times number 1 in the country. Just what's the team's mindset and focus going to be like going into Nashville for these 3 pivotal games?
Oh, the kids are going to be hungry. They're fired up, and what a tremendous opportunity to go play a top 5 team at their place. And, hopefully we'll come out like we did when we went to Arkansas, when they were number 1 in the country. So tremendous respect for Vanderbilt and Tim Corbin and their program and this year's group that they have. It's a very talented team, a really good team. I like our team too, and really excited for the challenge. And, we're not going to shy away. We're going to, give them everything we got, throw our best punch, and see what happens.
Well, before I'll let you go, I wanted to ask you about your taking part in the Uneven Baseball documentary. We saw the trailer come out for it this past week, and you're involved, as well as Alabama Director of Athletics Greg Burns. What can you tell us about the documentary and trying to shed some light on the college baseball scholarship issues?
I'm excited to see the finished product. I just answered some questions and gave some feedback, and I think it'll just be really good for somebody who's not as intimately involved with college baseball like I am to kind of get a better understanding of the landscape. And there's a lot of issues, and, college baseball has grown tremendously, and there's tremendous support for it, especially in the Southeastern Conference. And I think anybody that cares about what we do, that we're always looking for ways to maybe make it better and to improve it. And, I think the common theme that any coach would tell you, no matter whether they coach at a school with state lottery or financial aid or boarding state scholarships or that we would all say that we wish we all had more money to give these kids. You just hate for kids to have to make a decision based on the finances, and it's expensive to play college baseball. And, I don't know what'll come of it, but I was honored to be included, and, hopeful that it'll at least help educate people of, the situation that we're all dealing with our scholarship limitations.
Well, we look forward to seeing that documentary coming up in a few weeks. And, Coach, we look forward to seeing the Crimson Tide in Nashville this weekend against the Vanderbilt Commodores. Just thank you for some time with us on Crimson Drive today. Roll Tide.
Hey, Roll Tide, Roger. Thank you.
Great to hear from Coach Bo and the baseball team already making the trip to Nashville today and getting ready for the series that starts tomorrow with the Vanderbilt Commodores. Chris Stewart and I will be there in Nashville all weekend long to have you covered on the radio, so we're really fired up for that series between Alabama and Vanderbilt. Switching gears now, this is the month of May, and this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we wanted to have on Joanne P. McCallie, a longtime women's basketball head coach. She was assistant coach, great player as well, and she has a unique relationship to this Alabama program, and she's speaking up about her experience with bipolar disorder and also coaching with that all throughout her career. So I think you're really going to enjoy hearing from Coach McCallie, as well as the Alabama connection she has that she sheds light on in this really outstanding interview. Joined now by Coach Joanne P. McCallie as she joins us from her home talking about her new book that is out called Secret Warrior. And Coach, it's great to be joined with you. I just joked with you a moment ago. I think the last time I saw you, you were coaching against Alabama in women's basketball. How's everything going?
Thank you. Yes, some great memories back as a women's basketball coach, and also being a part of the Auburn staff years ago. So I'm very familiar with the whole rivalry, and there's nothing like it between Alabama and Auburn for sure.
No doubt about it. Well, we are entering into the month of May. This is our first show, Crimson Drive, in the month of May, and that is Mental Health Awareness Month. What can you tell us about the new book you have out called Secret Warrior?
Yeah, Secret Warrior is a mental health journey, and it chronicles my career as 25 years of being diagnosed with bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. And it's been something I've had to compartmentalize and deal with my entire coaching career. And it's also been interesting, some of the methods or philosophy in terms of my coaching, how that's allowed me to compartmentalize. I was 30 years old, and it was after the birth of my first child that I had this diagnosis. And it's also a book about loyalty and the concept of the women at the University of Maine that went through 2 episodes with me, a manic episode and a depressive episode, and how we had to come together and how we kept winning championships despite all the adversity and just everything that came with that challenge. And of course, that's covered in Secret Warrior. And then the wonderful nature of how people stick together through adversity allowed me to become the coach at Michigan State, and then of course the coach at Duke. So it's an interesting story. It's on Audible and Kindle and all that good stuff now, but it's really a message that I think resonates right now, especially with student athletes, but also with any age or any person coming out of the pandemic, and the nature of how we have to take care of our brain health.
Yeah, you mentioned this has been on your mind to write this book for a long time. What made now the right time for you to release this?
Now is the right time because my career was winding down at Duke. And when I was 39, we were in the national championship. This was back at Michigan State. And I thought that maybe I'd have a platform at that time at age 39 to share it. And I was counseled against that by quite a few people, saying that that would shorten my coaching career, that through the stigmas and through people not understanding that I may not ever coach again, or I may face some kind of discrimination along the way. So I kind of put it in its box, kind of left it there, again, with that coaching mentality, because we as coaches definitely compartmentalize. I had great doctors, of course, and support, and then carried on at Michigan State for an amazing 7 years, culminating in that national championship run, and then being able to come to Duke and have some exciting Elite Eights and all sorts of neat championships and things of that nature. But it was time. You kind of know it, and you feel it. And I'm very happy that I was able to step away and be able to write this and share it with as many people as possible, simply because mental health is a continuum and it permeates so many people, their lives, people they know, and we've got to try to make a difference.
You mentioned that years ago, people said, no, don't say anything about this. Don't write this book. Don't come out and speak about it. What is the kind of support, though, you are getting now as you do speak out and write this book?
Well, it's been amazing. And, part of the reason I'm so grateful to be on this talk with you is, this Zoom is special because Coach Saban, Nick, was the first person to endorse the book. And he did this prior to the season, obviously, that they had. This was way back. I was joking with Linda, if I didn't catch him before the season started, we'd never get the okay for him to do so. So it was really kind of an exciting thing. Obviously, the national championship, I follow Bama very closely. And on the other side, on the women's side, Tara Vanderveer also endorsed it, among others. And then, of course, they won a national championship in women's basketball. And so I was liking the karma of some of the endorsements, whether it was, Coach Saban or Tara or Mike Krzyzewski or whoever. It's sort of a diverse group of people. And getting that support early obviously fortifies the book relative to the personalities and everyone being on the same page, because mental health does not discriminate. And also, mental health might be the only thing that can bring rivalries together. Because remember, I got my MBA at Auburn. I had some coaching in Auburn, and I came into coaching much like Coach Saban as a graduate assistant, and I didn't think I wanted to be a coach at that time. And then I was exposed to such great success. I was able to be a young head coach at 26. So there are a lot of dynamics here that sort of move about, but I am a huge Alabama fan, and I'm a huge Auburn fan, and I don't even think I should say that on air. But it's true.
No, we enjoyed it. How far back does your relationship with Coach Saban go? Is it from the Michigan State days that you first got to know him?
Yeah, it's kind of a neat story. I never met Coach, never met him. I came into Michigan State and he had departed, and that was to LSU. The thing about it was the whole way about Nick and what he brought to Michigan State permeated Michigan State long after he left. Relative to the conversations, talking with Tom Izzo, working alongside Tom Izzo, and just listening to how people spoke about Coach Saban. And so immediately he became a mentor to me, sort of a ghost mentor. I never met him. And it was following the philosophies that are so important, the whole process piece, understanding the process and understanding some of these ideas, immediacy, intensity, intelligence, and how to apply the eye test and how to remove the clutter, the whole, everything about the no scoreboard mentality, staying in the moment, and his leadership principles. All of these were something that I learned, followed, studied, and applied, and did that so at Michigan State to the fact of in 5 years we played for a national championship, which was a lot of fun. And they've kind of been carried through my coaching career, and now are actually being carried into mental health education and awareness, which might seem like a leap, but actually it's really not.
Well, it was one of the talking points all throughout the past summer with the pandemic leading into this past school year, that these student athletes really need sports to come back just for their mental health sake. And even going through the challenge of playing a season, dealing with all the COVID tests, all the uncertainty, virtual learning. Have you really been feeling for the student athletes over this past year? And are you glad that there's more conversation now about mental health for these athletes?
Yes, I'm very, very glad for more conversation. Well overdue. 25 years ago, I couldn't even understand the word bipolar, nor speak it, nor communicate it. And the way I had to communicate with my team was to talk about exhaustion and be very, very careful about the whole situation. Again, the book is really a neat story about loyalty and coming through and winning championships despite adversity. So I will say that as Mental Health Awareness Month, I'm so great to be here. It's so great to be here with you and recognize that the stigmas must step away. Stories over stigmas is one of my foundation beliefs about what we're trying to do, which is tell stories, share stories as much as we're capable of sharing those stories, and then use mentorship. Mentorship matters. I have a little bit of referent power because I'm a coach that's been on a pretty big stage and had a very difficult personal situation. And when I currently talk to student athletes or others, they want to ask me questions about it, the whole continuum of depression and how it affected my life and maybe what nugget I could share with them. And so it's been incredibly rewarding, this experience. And as you may know, suicides are up, self-care is down, routines are disturbed greatly, and young people are reaching and clamoring for their lives as they were. And I don't just think we're going to jump right back to it. I think we have a real transition coming up in the next year to get it right.
Well, for you, you've made the transition from being the head coach at Duke to now taking some time away to writing this book. What's kind of next for you? What's the next chapter of Coach McCallie?
Next chapter is to follow Secret Warrior as far as it can go, relative to being a mentor and teaching, speaking, doing everything I can to continue through with the message and to be a mentor in this way. It's hard to predict what the future will bring. Again, I'm so grateful again to Coach Saban, not only for him choosing to endorse this book as he did, but for the whole shared stories he's always done in the books. How good do you want to be? All the books that have come out have been very authentic. Everyone knows the story about the gas station and the jokes he makes about Miss Terry and all of that. Everyone knows so much personally about him, but he has shared a great deal and let people in. And I find that remarkable, a person of his stature and the stage that he lives on, how much he's brought in. And I also find it remarkable that he would care about mental health enough to endorse a book by a women's basketball coach who basically, looked to him as a mentor. And he was so gracious about the mentorship. I was invited to shadow him for a day, as I did at Alabama. Now, if you haven't shadowed Nick Saban for a day, you have really not lived. I mean, it was a fantastic experience. And I believe I was one of the few, maybe the only female coach to do so, but to watch the culture and the order the routine and all of it that went into that day, not to mention practice. I mean, those guys are so big. I mean, it's just amazing how big they are and how quick they are. So I've really been blessed with this full experience with Coach Saban. And now I'm sort of coming around saying thank you, and then taking this lead that I have right now to share my story in depth. Yes, very personal. The book is quite personal. There's some really rather tough parts to it, but I think it also is what is needed for us to take another step in great mental health and imagine the best athletes, the best people, and the best mindset, what that does overall for our lives.
Coach, tell us again where fans can go online to pick up the book or in bookstores.
Well, you can go to Amazon and just go ahead and order it there. Secret Warrior. We've got a soft copy, hard copy. I'm a first-time author. I've been told that because I wrote the book myself, I actually qualify as an author, which really does make me happy since I'm from Maine, and Maine author sounds kind of cool. But the important thing I want to express is that these books, maybe Coach Saban's books, bring in dollars of great, lengths. But the bottom line is I'm trying to build a foundation. And it's a Secret Warrior Foundation, Coach P for Life Foundation. And just as Nick and other coaches have done with their foundations, this is obviously geared towards mental health and providing grants and opportunity to certain situations. So there's always something in the future. It's a process to get there. I'm at the very beginning of the process. I need not worry about the outcome too much because it seems like it's going to be, take a while, let's just say, to get this foundation where it needs to be. So that's the motivator. And again, the Audible is out in May. We're very pleased about that it would come out during the month of May. And if anyone wants to get in contact with me, you've got my information, and I will definitely respond as I had to many student athletes and organizations, podcasts, and otherwise.
Well, that really sounds good, Coach. We're glad again that Coach Saban has endorsed this book, and we're certainly thankful for that. And I did want to ask you about Alabama's women's basketball head coach, Christy Curry. I know you've been competing against her for a long, long time, even going back to your days at Michigan State.
Yeah, now Christy, okay, I could talk a lot about Christy. First of all, she's just terrific, and she's so dedicated with her family and what she's done and the success she had in the Big Ten. And without question, yes, coaching against each other. And then I was so thrilled when she was able to come to Alabama, obviously because I knew Coach Saban's there. I know the culture, I know how it kind of works. And so I was very, very happy for her. And we've been talking about Secret Warrior, and we've been talking about the role that I'm in now. I'm outside of coaching, but helping and how you can help student athletes when you're off the court. So we've communicated a little bit, but she's a fabulous person and has done some incredible things. And I know men's basketball was rocking it out this year. I mean, let's face it, it's kind of was an Alabama year in every way. And I know that Christy's so proud to be a part of it. And I'm so excited for her program. And it's kind of neat to not be her adversary. It's fun to be I'm on her team. Let's just put it that way. Fun to be on our team.
We certainly like hearing that. And before we let you go, I did want to ask you as well, you were able to step away this past year, get to watch a lot of women's college basketball, and it seems like the parity in this sport is as strong as it's been. And there was a lot of discussion about women's basketball in the NCAA tournament, and we had a tremendous tournament on the court, but a lot of issues were raised off the court. Just where do you think the sport's headed next?
Well, I think it's headed in a great direction. There's a lot more awareness. Of course, the WNBA has really picked up. The women there have been incredible leaders and stepped forward with many different conversations. So that's been great. And then at the collegiate level, there's just been much more exposure, more games on TV. ESPN really stepped up there and provided that exposure. And the stories have been amazing because you're right, the parity is there more so. When you look at Arizona, I mean, I just love that team to see what they did. It reminded me of back in the day at Michigan State and what we did at that time. So that was an incredible run. And it's so important to see other teams sort of stepping in and bringing success and sort of diversifying the Final Four a little bit. But there's no doubt the future of women's basketball is very bright, very competitive. And as you say, much more parity. And that just, I don't know if there's football parity. I mean, okay, if we're going to talk football, I don't know. I pretty much have been banking on Bama every year, and so far I'd say it's pretty good. So I don't know if it's like a football situation. Women's basketball is a little bit different, as is the sport, but it's special. And Christy's doing a great job, and I really appreciate her.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for your time and talking to us about Secret Warrior. Certainly hope Alabama fans will pick up a copy and continue to learn more during Mental Health Awareness Month during the month of May. But just thank you so much, and can we get a Roll Tide out the door?
Oh, absolutely. Roll Tide.
Thanks to Coach McCallie. Make sure you check out Secret Warrior, endorsed by Coach Saban. She mentioned that Coach Saban was the first coach that has endorsed this book. And again, a really important read, especially during the month of May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. Thanks again to Coach McCallie for joining us here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Coming up also during this month of May, it's time for the postseason for the Alabama men's golf team. They had a great run of the SEC championship, making it to the semifinals before falling to Vanderbilt. And as we heard from Coach Sewell last week, really no shame in that. Vanderbilt ended up winning the SEC championship in golf. So now the Crimson Tide feel really prepared. And on earlier this week, it was actually yesterday, on Wednesday, we got the news that Alabama is headed to the NCAA Stillwater Regional as Alabama starts its run trying to chase down another national championship. And here's Coach Sewell after we learn the news where Alabama's headed to begin their run in the NCAA Men's Golf Championship.
All right, Coach, let's talk about getting in the NCAA Regional, back at it, 16th straight year that you guys been in.
Yeah, excited. It's always good to see your name on the television. I know our guys are excited. So to see what, like I said, when the name finally popped up, it was the last one. It's always a good feeling. It's what you work through the whole year to do, and really excited about going back to Karsten.
And talk about that, you guys had some good luck there last time you were there. So.
Yeah, played national final there in 2018. So we've had some good success there. We've had 3 guys that have played it, either with us or, as individually as an individual tournament in junior golf. So excited about going back, to Oklahoma. We've got a lot of good memories from Oklahoma State, except for the last one. But it's a great golf course. It's a great test, and the 5 teams that get out of there will be the best 5 teams.
Good to hear from Coach Sewell. It's time for him and the men's golf team to get to work 2 weeks away from heading to Stillwater, Oklahoma for the NCAA Regional. And don't forget the women's golf team led by head coach Mick Potter getting set for it next week's regional that they're participating in Baton Rouge. So we certainly wish the Crimson Tide golfers all the best as they get ready to chase down another championship. Still have a lot of baseball, a lot of softball still left to go this weekend, and it's time to take a look at our weekend schedule. We start with the Alabama softball team, and they start tonight, 6 o'clock at Rhodes Stadium, home against the Ole Miss Rebels for what is the final regular season series of the year. 6 p.m. both Thursday and Friday at the Rhodes House, and then Saturday everything comes to a close for the regular season at 11 a.m. on Saturday. So make sure you get your tickets in advance at rolledtide.com and head on over to Rhodes Stadium for Alabama softball. Then the baseball team on the road going to Nashville, like we talked about earlier in the show with the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Brad Bohannon. Tomorrow night, a 6:30 start from Hawkins Field in Nashville. And you want to talk about a great pitching matchup. Tyler Ross has been leading Alabama's pitching staff all throughout the year. He'll be on the mound tomorrow night going up against Kumar Rocker, who has been talked about as one of the best prospects in college baseball. Looking forward to the upcoming Major League Baseball draft this summer. A lot of people have him maybe as the number 1 pick, and then the guy that'll throw on Saturday for Vanderbilt, Jack Leiter, the son of longtime Major League pitcher Al Leiter. He'll be getting the start for the Commodores on Saturday going up against Dylan Smith. I think that's really the matchup of the weekend. Dylan Smith against Jack Leiter coming up on Saturday at 2 p.m. Sunday at 1 o'clock. Alabama has not announced a starter just yet, but it's really the next 2 days. Those great pitching matchups because, again, you could see Kumar Rocker or Jack Leiter be the number 1 overall pick. Probably going to see both in the top 5 in the Big League Baseball draft. So if you love baseball, especially if you love Crimson Tide baseball, getting to see Alabama against these guys is really going to be a treat coming up in Nashville as the Commodores continue to be at the top of the SEC East. Kind of Tennessee, Florida also right there in contention for the SEC East title, but the Commodores are playing at a really high level even though they're on a 3-game losing streak coming into this weekend. Meanwhile, Alabama really coming in strong, having just swept the Missouri Tigers, and they will try to continue their winning ways as they make the trip to Nashville, Tennessee. So that's going to wrap up this edition of Crimson Drive. We thank Coach Bohannon for his time, as well as Joanne P. McCallie. Make sure you check out her book, Secret Warrior. Thanks as well to Coach Sewell for his comments. And again, I mentioned this at the very top of the show. I want to reiterate it again. If you missed last night's Crimson Choice Awards, originally the show was only for student athletes, but now the entire show is available on YouTube and on RolledTide.com. So I think you should check it out to see some of the great accomplishments from our student athletes over this past year, and a year that's not over yet, especially with baseball and softball, and that's where our focus will continue to be over the next few weeks here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Special thanks to Ethan Carabin, our producer, for putting all of this together. Thank you as well for watching, and now just get ready for a great weekend of Alabama athletics, and we'll be back with you next Thursday coming up at 2 p.m. for Crimson Drive here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network.